Bring back men yearning. Bring back men fantasizing about wanting to kiss the girl that they actually like. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shanira, but I go by Nira. And if you are returning, hi, welcome back. So today, this is starting a book vlog essentially. So my first read of the month, if you haven't watched my last video where I talked about what my TBRs for the month of January was going to be, this is the first book that I am planning on reading. I want to start my year off with reading a book that I have tried reading like technically 3 years ago and it didn't work. So this is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory. I love that. This is like the third book of hers that I own actually, but we're going to try and read this again. Last time I read it, I only made it to chapter 4 and I can't tell you what this book was about. I do not remember. So we're going to reread it. It does have a prologue and an epilogue, and then I think it has 35 chapters altogether if I don't remember, if I stand corrected. Yeah, 35. So altogether, I add the prologue and the epilogue together with the chapters that come in the book. So we have a total of 37 chapters. I plan on spending this entire week essentially reading this book and taking you guys with me on how I feel about it and what my initial thoughts. And so since my goal is to read this book and be done by Thursday, we have Saturdays. Can I not? Okay. We have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So we have 5 days to read this book. I divide books and how I read them by chapters and not by pages. I kind of remember this now because I think I related to Izzy as somebody who graduated from college and is living at home and still living at home. So I think I will like this book. It's going to be a good book. Jasmine Guillory hardly ever disappoints. I love her work. So I think it's going to be a good read. So how we're going to do this is I like to read in increments of 30 minutes because usually I'm able to get at least 2 or 3 chapters read. So it doesn't take long. And then I take like a 15-minute break and essentially debrief. So what I'm going to do is y'all are just going to watch me read essentially, and then I will come back and give you like a synopsis of the 7 chapters that I read. And that's pretty much how this vlog is going to go. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, please like, comment, subscribe, and let's get to reading. Let's enjoy this very first book vlog of 2026. Hi guys, welcome to day 2 of this book vlog. I did make it, I think, to chapter 7, I'm pretty sure, of like the book, but let me just double check. I'm 100% sure I made it to chapter 7. So I made it to chapter 7. The goal, I believe, today is to get to chapter 14, and I might end up reading 14 as well and making it to chapter 15, so that way I can just try to, you know, excel in this reading, expedite it just a little bit. So far, I'm liking it. It reminds me a lot of a Wattpad story, if that makes sense. Like, just the way that it's written, it gives very much Wattpad, but that might just be me. And as someone who reads a lot of romance, some things that occur in a book can be very much a, oh, you got lucky, or this would never happen in reality. And if it did, this is like a once in a lifetime thing. So there are moments that are like that in this book, but it's not a bad thing. I expect that when reading a romance, I expect cliches, but sometimes it can be a lot. But that's going to be today's goal, is to read that. It is currently, I think, like 4:45. So like I said, I'm going to set my 30 minutes, do another 30 minutes, and then so it's been a minute since I talked to y'all because I did not read anything yesterday. I have not touched this book since, what's today? Wednesday? So Monday. So I essentially have 14 chapters that I need to read in order for me to be done with the book tomorrow. Do need to finish this because I'm not even halfway in the book yet. But that is the goal for today, is to basically read 14 chapters. I'm not even sure how many chapters that's going to be. I'm going to assume it's going to be chapter 28 Because if you add 14 plus chapter 14, which I didn't read, that makes 28, I would assume, if my math is correct. Let me add that together. Hold on, just so we know that that's correct and I'm not a dumbass. Yeah, 28. So then when I read the last 7 for tomorrow, to be 35 chapters altogether. So that is the plan. So far, I'm really liking the book. She's starting to really have feelings for him, and she's, liking him a lot more now that he's not such an asshole to her. That's what we're gonna do. So I'm giving you guys a check-in. I think it's like 4:45. When I started, it was like right at 4:05. So pretty much 30 minutes worth of reading. I am on chapter 19, so I have 9 more chapters to read. I'm gonna take like a small 15-minute break, and then hopefully I should be done with this by 5:30, which is perfect. Then I've read all of them. So far, I really, really like what I am reading. I know I'm probably going to disagree with a lot of the comments that were left for the review for this book, but I really like Bo's character. I didn't think I was gonna like his character as much, but he has really grown on me, which I will discuss that later. But I really, really like Bo's character. I might like him more than our actual protagonist, which is Izzy Isabel. I fear I might like him a lot more. But once I get done with that, I will check back in with you guys. I just finished chapter 23. And I was going to talk to the camera as soon as they did about what I'm about to say. And then I'll take another break. It's almost, what time is it? It's 5:30, so I'm going to take another break, and then I should be done with the next 4 chapters. Really 5, because I'm going to read chapter 28. I just want to read this little excerpt to you. When they pulled up to the house, Bo stopped the car, but didn't get out. You have your keys, right? I think I want to go down to the beach for a little while, he said. She dug through her bag and found the keys. She opened the car door, but then she turned to him. Do you want company? He smiled at her. Only if the company is you. You're playing in my face. Anyways, Izzy looked away so he wouldn't see her smiling. Her cheeks felt warm. Was she blushing? If she was, at least Bo wouldn't be able to tell. They got to the beach just as the sun started to set. Bo spread an old blanket from the trunk onto the sand and then sat down. For a while, they both just stared in silence at the pink and orange horizon. I could use another one of those hugs if that still... Huh? Can I read? If that's still an offer. Bo says. Izzy immediately turned to him. He wrapped his arms around her and rested his hand right in the small of her back, where they began before. She tucked her face into that little divot in his shoulder, and he dropped his head down onto her shoulder and let out a long sigh. After a while, his fingers moved gently up and down her back, and it made her whole body tingle. She didn't want to stop. She didn't want this to stop. She didn't want to let him go. She just wanted to sit here with him, so close so there was no space between them, feeling his touch, breathing in and out, listening to the waves crashing into the shore. But after a little while, she could feel him starting to pull away, so she forced herself to let him go. Sit back. He moved away slowly and stopped to face her. When they were still so close, when her hands were still touching his shoulder, when his palms were on her upper arms. When I told my mom about you, he said, about those last few weeks and everything you've done for me, she said something else. She said she was so glad I had you. She said how lucky I was to have someone like you. Izzy tried to say something, but for once, she had no idea what to say. He brushed her hair out of her face, and his fingertips lingered on her cheek. I told her that she was right, that I'm very glad to have you, that it was the luckiest day of my life when you knocked on my door. Izzy stared at him for a long moment. She noticed a fleck of green inside of his golden brown eyes. He was looking straight at her in a way he had never before. It made her so happy and so scared all at once. She knew she had to pull away, get up, and break this moment between them. But then she'd be waiting for this so long. And from the look on his face, she thought he did too. She let her hands move up his shoulders, and then slowly she leaned forward and kissed him. I'm not done. He kissed her back, at first soft softly and gently, and then the kiss changed and became urgent and insistent. She could tell from his kiss, from the way he pulled her closer, that he wanted this as much as she did. They kissed for so long as the sun set in front of them, until finally Bo rested his forehead against hers. Oh, that's so cute. Do you know how long I waited? I've been waiting to do that, Bo asked. The answer is a very long time. She pulled back and looked into his eyes. I didn't know that. No, she said. I kind of thought I was all alone and wanted to do that. I didn't even really let myself think about it because I thought. He laughed and dropped a kiss in her hair. I'm not sure whether to be glad I hid my feelings so well from you or to be furious we wasted so much time when we could have been doing this. He brushed his fingertips over her bottom lip, but I'm mostly just happy to be here with you right now. Izzy leaned forward and kissed him again. I'm really happy to be here with you right now. They sat there for a little while longer, holding each other, kissing and talking about nothing, kissing more. Finally, Bo stood up and reached for her hand. If that ain't the cutest shit I've ever read in my life, I've read, cuter stuff, but that's just, that's so great. I love when men yearn for women. It's my favorite pastime, truly. And I want to read more novels that are like that. Bring back men yearning. God, granted, it's great when women can take initiative and be like, oh my God, I like you. But bring back men yearning. Bring back men fantasizing about wanting to kiss the girl that they actually like. Is that so wrong? But the way that Jasmine wrote that was just beautiful. Oh my God, I can't wait to read these next 4 chapters and see how this unfolds, because it's just great. Hey y'all, so today is Saturday and I am going to finish up this book. When I left off, when I was reading on Wednesday, I left off on chapter 29. So we are getting pretty far within the book, I would like to say. So we are at almost home stretch. I think I have like the last chapter is chapter 35, and then we have an epilogue, and then after that we're done. I'm going to take you guys with me reading this last part of the book, and then future me will talk to you guys about my final thoughts and how I felt about the book and ratings and all those wonderful things. So I just wanted to film kind of like my last final thoughts, answer some questions about the end of By the Book, because I did finish reading it. It was a good read, but I'm just gonna get right on into it, not hold up too much of y'all's time. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the characters. The question is were they relatable and well developed? We're going to start with Izzy. She's relatable to somebody that is a writer. Myself, I am a writer, so it was easy to relate to her because of that. But I feel like if somebody didn't write or anything, they would probably find her a bit obnoxious and kind of like insecure about her writing and her career in writing, which is very normal in the market of writing. Every writer experiences that moment where they feel like they can't do this isn't their calling, and all it takes is like one bad review or one bad person that reads your work, and in their head they feel like they're being constructive but is actually being really destructive. And so then it makes us question our self-worth, whether or not that we are a good writer and this is our true calling. And when that happens, like Izzy does in the book, spoiler, you stop writing because you feel like it's not something that you're good at anymore. And that's happened to me. It happened with me with writing fiction, and it was because I would write on Wattpad and I thought I was good, and then I would read other people's work and I'd be like, mine doesn't look like theirs, it doesn't read like that. And then I would have some comments that would come in and be like, this is really bad, or this is really cliche. So then it does prohibit you for a second from writing and doing stuff because of the fact that one person told you that you suck at it. And Izzy she's a great example of that. Another spoiler is that she does start writing, like back writing, but it's because of the fact that, you know, she's helping Bo. And I feel like there should have been another reason as to why she started back writing and not so solely focus on the fact of her helping Bo is the reason she started writing again. Like, it's like, oh, a man helped me, so then I just feel like I have to do it. And it's like, yeah, I don't like that. I feel like she is a well-developed character, but I was very curious to know what her writing was about. Like, was it a romance novel? Was it just like a regular fiction novel? We never got any insight on what that was, and I wish we would have. And then also, I would have loved to see her confidence grow as a writer. We saw her confidence grow as a person, but not as a writer. And I feel like for Izzy's character, that was really important to her, and we didn't get to see that. Now with Bo Towers, I think his relatability for being a celebrity is good because of the fact that, like, he's a celebrity and he lives by himself. He has all this stuff. Now, he does fit the stereotype of being an asshole and being known for that. I feel like she did a great job of playing into that. And he does change, but his change is realistic. It's like, he starts out as a asshole and then he's still an asshole, but less of that. We get to see why he was the reason he was. It doesn't justify anything. It just explains a lot of the reason as to why he acts the way he does. And I feel like that made him more relatable and real, because even though he stopped being so mean to Izzy, there were still moments where he would do certain things that would be a replication of what he was before. And I think that was really good, because a person will always still have flaws. No matter how much they want to change, you're still going to have a flaw. And I feel like we see that a lot with a lot of books, where a character will be this one way and then they do like a complete 360 and they're a completely different person, and then it's no longer realistic anymore, because that doesn't happen in real life, unfortunately. Marta, I wanted to see more of her. We got hints that she was a bad boss, but we didn't really get to see much of her being a bad boss. And I feel like instead of in the beginning where we were talking a lot about Izzy trying to figure out whether or not she wants to stay at the publishing company, we should have seen more of Marta being an asshole or being like the bitch that Izzy claims that she is. And then it would have made more sense as to why she wanted to leave. And then the ending would have been a little bit stronger in that regard. Now, when we get to Garrett, his character wasn't bad. I just wish she would have played more into the evil intentions that he had. And I say that because we get the inkling that he doesn't like Izzy, but we don't get anything else. And I feel like we should have had more, like having him text Izzy and be like, how's things going? Sending her like discouraging things without it being really discouraging. So that way when the ending happens, it's a little bit more hard hitting than it was. The ending, it was just kind of like, ah. That's kind of be expected. But I feel like if we would have gotten more of him being just a horrible person, it would have been a little bit better. Priya's character was cool. She was the best friend. I don't think she changed much. She was a bit much and she was a little bit of a cliche, but that's to be expected for her character. And then, but also her character matches Izzy. So I wasn't too mad at that. Michaela was cool. I wish there was more tension with her and Bo. I wish Jasmine would have played with their dynamic better, and making it kind of seem like there was maybe something going on between Michaela and Bo. So that way when Izzy, like, you know, starts to develop feelings for Bo, she has like this hindrance of whether or not she should try to pursue this because she thinks something is going on. I feel like it would have been cool, but I understand why she took the route that she did with Michaela. For the writing style, was the prose beautiful, clunky, easy to read? Very easy to read. I wish Izzy had more descriptiveness, and I feel like that's a fault from Jasmine. I feel like she really could have played into that more and really showing off how much of, like, you know, reader and a writer she is by how descriptive things could have been. And especially when she landed in Cali, I wanted more descriptions, and we just didn't get a lot, especially with the house. I feel like we didn't get a lot of that. And then like to see more intimate moments with Bo and them having like feelings, like more internal dialogue. I feel like we got some, but we didn't get a lot of it. Now for the plot and the placing, were there plot twists, info dumps, and did it drag? There was kind of a plot twist at the end, but it was kind of expected if you paid attention. The info dumps were normal because I expect that from someone like Izzy who reads a lot. We talk a lot, so that's to be expected. And did it drag? It dragged in the beginning. I think that's why I almost DNF'd it when I read it 3 years ago, because now it's 4 years ago, because of the fact that the book is slow. You have to really push yourself to read through it. And then once we get past that little hump, when she finally gets to Cali and she stays there, that's when the book really picks up. And I feel like some of those chapters probably could have been condensed, but then it invalidates what I said earlier about Marta being, you know, playing and her being a bitch, and Garrett. So something would have had to take the back burner, unfortunately, when it comes to the plot, but also the character development. But that also helps move the plot and the pacing of the story. So they go hand in hand. You just have to figure out where your 50-50 is. Now, the themes and message for this book, what was the deeper ideas? It touched on just believing in yourself and just starting something. It can be really daunting to start something and put yourself out there, but you won't know if you're good at it or if you can get better until you start. And I feel like Bo and Michaela, Bo and Izzy were great foils of one another. Bo was too afraid to start writing because he knew that society depicted him in one way. And then Izzy was afraid to start back writing because she knew that if she wrote, it wasn't probably going to be good enough, and she wanted to be good enough. So they were like really good foils of one another. And I feel like it was a very strong message, but it wasn't too much to the point where it was just aggravating. But then also we see a lot of trauma that Bo deals with, and it is addressed, but it doesn't really, they tackle the conversation of depression, but they don't really go more into depth with it. And I feel like we could have, especially with Izzy being tired of like living with her parents and not having enough pay and her job being sucky and it just ruining her mental. I feel like Jasmine could have really played more into that, but maybe she just wanted to be a little bit more lighthearted. And I understand that not everything needs to be so serious that you have to feel like you need to tackle every single conversation that it exists. The world building, how immersive was the world? It wasn't that great. It was okay. We learned a few things about Bo's house. We know he has a TV room, a library, a pantry, a garden, and a pool, but that's about it. That's like the basic things you would expect in a rich person's house. But I think we could have played a lot more with the scenery, especially when they go on the dates and they go to the beach and all this stuff. I feel like we really could have built this world a little bit better, especially when she was in New York and being able to compare them. We got a little bit of comparison, but not enough to the point where it was just like you felt like you were in the world with Izzy and Bo. And then the emotional impact. How did this book make me feel? I just felt really giddy reading it. It was a cutesy book. I loved it. I had, no bad things. There was no spice in it. I wasn't expecting it to have spice. I don't think the story called for that, honestly. I feel like some people get really caught up in the fact that, oh, they need to do this, they need to do that. Sometimes you just don't need that. And that's okay. And Jasmine Guillory has a bunch of, like, she has other books that have spice in them that you can go and read. And it's like, yeah, you want to see specific characters, but sometimes that's just not who they are. And that's just not who Bo and Izzy are. They do touch on some sexual things, but they never get to do anything, and I was okay with that, honestly. If I wanted to read a book with spice, I would have picked one. Now, my overall rating, I would rate it as a 4-star. Most people on Fable rated it like a 3.2, 3.5. I feel like they were just being really harsh. It was not a bad read. People just expect like this profound reading when they read a book, and that's just not always going to be the case. And that's okay. Not every book is supposed to be a 5-star read, but then not every book is going to be horrible to the point where you don't give them their credit where credit is due. Jasmine Guillory is not a bad writer. People just want beautiful prose that's just so authentic and deep, and that's not always the case. Everything can't be profound, provocative thinking. And I feel like book talk has really warped people's mind into thinking that it has to be that way. Would I read this book again? Probably not. Just because of how slow it moves in comparison to her other book that I have, The Party of Two. That book, the pacing in it is great, and it hooks you immediately when you pick it up. This one, on the other hand, it does have a slow start, so you're liable to, not really care about it as much. But if I needed something to just reread and get me back into reading romance, I would read it again. But other than that, no. But that's all I have. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, this reading vlog. I plan on doing this again. It was fun. I might try some different things when I do this again for the next time. And who knows, I might not even do romance the next time. I might do something else like sci-fi or thriller or whatever. We'll play around with it. This might be a different series when I just do different reading vlogs with different books. I'm not doing the same genre consistently. And I might even do it with poetry as well. I wouldn't do it with nonfiction because that's kind of pointless. But like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, comment, and share, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so that you can get notifications every single time that I post a video. And I also have a Substack and Medium blog post linked down below, along with a book reading Discord that you can join and talk and have a good time with all other readers just like me and yourself. So as I always say, choose happy, be happy, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.